Now, before we get started, I want each one of us to ask ourselves, what am I doing to make this world a better place? Now, today, we're going to go on a journey together, and I'm going to share with you some of my experiences around volunteering in hopes that it drastically changes the way that you give, and maybe even changes your life and the life of those around you. Now, it wasn't too long ago I was actually living in Redondo Beach, beachfront, had my own consulting business, was a partner in several other small businesses, traveling the world. They told me that I was living the American dream. And then I was invited to a children's center down in Baja. Some of you may refer to them as an orphanage. Little did I know that it would change the course of my life forever. You see, that trip for me was like a butterfly effect. That would eventually lead me to sell everything that I owned, pack up, and move down to Tijuana. Have you ever heard of the butterfly effect? Right. Well, for those of you who haven't, it's a theory that one gentle flapping of a butterfly's wings creates a ripple effect that in turn changes the patterns of the weather on the other side of the world. I mean, crazy, right? Something so small as one butterfly can have that kind of an impact on the world. I believe that each person at some point in their life has asked themselves, what's my purpose? Now, there's some that aren't fully tapping into that potential, and there's some that don't even have the tools available to them to be able to fulfill it completely. I believe each person here wants to do good. I mean, think about it. There's something that tugs on your heart. We each want to help more. We all want to do more. Each soul has this inherent desire to want to change the world. Well, for me, that desire didn't turn into action until 2008. You see, in 2008, I was invited on that service trip down to a children's center. And we were told that these children, they had absolutely nothing. That they were helpless. And that it was our mission, even just for the short time that we were there, to make sure that these children felt loved and appreciated. And so, it being my first time on one of these trips, I thought carefully about what stuff could I bring to make sure that I had the biggest impact on these children, right? So they included stuff like canned food, clothes, personal hygiene items, and their children, right? So a bunch of toys and money just in case we had forgotten something. Does that formula sound familiar to any of us? Right? I mean, this is what we do. So I was feeling good about myself and the stuff that we had in the van. So 20 of us volunteers started down south to cross the border. And after a short drive from Riverside, California to Ensenada, we end up at this beautiful home. And since then, over the last almost 10 years, I've seen a lot of these homes and been on a lot of these trips. So allow me just for a moment to teleport you in that comfortable seat that you're in onto a typical orphanage visit with me. We first drive through the gate in our van, and there's this joy and excitement from all of us as we're ready to give, to serve. I mean, this energy is palpable. And then we're immediately met by the sounds of about 50 boys and girls playing and laughing. There's babies crying and there's dogs barking, and you know that you are in a completely different world. Can you imagine it? And then looking around the home, the rooms have cement floors, there's bunk beds that line the walls, and there's toys and there's games everywhere. And we're playing with them, and we're coloring with them, and we're cooking for them, and honestly, it can be overwhelming. They call us Papa and Mama, and ask to be held and picked up. And that's just the toddlers. The teenagers, they're just playing soccer or hanging out or are responsible for taking care of the little ones. And just when we're getting to know them, starting to connect with them, and to love them, well, then it's time to leave. And they hold on to your legs, not wanting you to leave, begging you to stay. And they ask you questions like, will you be back? And do you promise? And we say yes, because honestly, we intend to. And we can't disappoint them. But let me tell you this, whatever you respond to them, they have a great memory and they will remember. So that should give you a sense of a typical orphanage visit. And I did this for years. I mean, this was my way of giving, and it felt good. And over the years, I was getting to know these children, watching them grow up right before my eyes. And they stopped being orphaned or vulnerable or helpless. I mean, they're just children. And through no fault of their own, they ended up in this situation. So it became very difficult for me when I saw the number that there was over 30,000 of these children in homes just like this one all across Mexico. 30,000 of them. And a good number of those concentrated right here in Tijuana. And I became hooked on that reality. So I started going with more groups of people to see more homes, wanting to have the same impact on as many children as possible that I did on that first home. And little by little, it was becoming very clear that this stuff that I was bringing, like, yes, it was helping to keep them alive. But they were definitely not thriving. And they were certainly not actively pursuing their purpose. I'd like to share a story with you about Octavio. It was my time with him that really helped me to reevaluate the ways that I give. So on one of these trips down to Baja, I'm with a group of about 4 friends. And we drive down, and it's Octavio's job upon our arrival to give our group a tour of the home. 12 years old and skinny, these big, beautiful brown eyes filled with hope and a smile from ear to ear, all teeth. And right from the start, we're impressed because he's so poised as he's giving us an inside look at his home, his favorite toys, and made sure to introduce us to his 5 brothers and sisters that were living in this orphanage with him. You know, if I didn't know any better, I would have thought that Octavio was the youth ambassador of this home because he was so skilled at connecting with each one of us and making us feel warm and welcome. You know, it's funny because in that moment, we weren't on a volunteer trip or service providers. I mean, we were just guests in this child's home. And we all fell in love with him. But more than that, what really floored me about Octavio was that he was giving this tour in perfect English. I mean, of all places, this bilingual young man, poised, professional, articulate. And it got me thinking, what tools did Octavio have? And it got me thinking, what tools did Octavio have to make sure that when he left the home, he could live a successful life in the real world? What tools did any of these children have that when they left this children's center, they could leave the home and thrive? And what could I do to help? How could I change the way that I was volunteering to make sure that these children lived healthy, holistic lives? I left that day thinking very differently about how I wanted to give in a more sustainable way. But what would it look like to do that? How can we start to change these entrenched behaviors and attitudes we have as a society when it comes to helping children living in these children's centers? Behaviors I had previously encouraged. Well, if we think of it like a butterfly effect, we can breathe a little bit easier as we're faced to tackle such a big problem. You see, how we give, our influence, everything that we do has an opportunity to make a positive impact on just one child's life, who in turn can influence another and another, and create a ripple effect. You see, as long as there are disenfranchised children, there's going to be a need for these homes. It's just time that we change the conversation about how we give to them. Because we've been giving this way as a society for generations, and we've not been able to improve their lives at all. They're trapped in this cycle. Yeah, some make it out, but the vast majority of them, they leave the home with very minimal practical life skills, zero job training, and very limited ability to leave the home and thrive. We needed to find a way to make sure that Octavio and all of these children living in orphanages can not only stay alive, but thrive. Create Purpose was born in 2014 out of the idea that we need to drastically change the way we routinely give to children's centers. We've grown and will continue to evolve, but at our core, we focus on teaching children life skills by applying the proven methodology of STEAM, science, technology, engineering, art, and math, using project-based learning principles in orphanages. And we're seeing these children become more and more equipped every day, slowly but surely. But to be able to function and have the opportunity to thrive when they leave the home, to pursue a life of purpose, a purpose that, depending on which child you meet, includes things like what they're learning in our technology program, or in urban agriculture, or in nutrition and gastronomy. And these aren't pipe dreams or impossible dreams, because the children are learning from them, from local experts who are helping them to understand how to pursue those paths. Who are those people? We partner with a binational community that includes local experts in the fields of technology, education, psychology, nutrition, agriculture, and other community groups and service organizations and industry experts. And together, we're learning how to crack the code on what it means like to connect with these children, to give them the tools so that they can discover their own purpose in life, to let them know that their past can help to strengthen their future, and to prepare them to be conscious citizens and leaders when they leave the home. I see this group of butterflies, and I can see the ripple effect coming together one by one. What started off as a simple tour of the home and a smile grew to an idea, then to a group of friends, then to a local community, and now we're partnering with binational innovators. And can you see it? Can you see the butterfly effect? And those effects ripple their way to the children as well. It's working. For now, I can tell you this, that of the 30,000 children living in children's centers in Mexico, for the 80 that are in our program, the butterfly effect is starting to work in ways like decreasing aggression and improving interpersonal skills like collaboration and confidence. That said, we continue to work with our partners to find better ways to monitor impact and measure results, to know what's working and what isn't. So let me ask you, if they call a school of fish, a group of fish, if they call a group of, so let me ask you, if they call a group of fish a school of fish, and they call a group of birds a flock, you care to guess what they call a group of butterflies? A kaleidoscope. How perfect, right? Because a kaleidoscope is something that creates these stunning patterns of light that are only visible when guided by a gentle turn. So if you ask me, do I believe that the wings of one butterfly can have significant impact on the world? My answer is this. Not only do I believe it, but I believe even when broken, they can be mended with love and a whole lot of purposeful effort to change the course of the world forever. And these children, they need you to believe that too. Do you? I believe each and every one of you have your own personal purpose. You personally matter. So go out and use your influence, your purpose to make your impact felt. Whatever scale you engage in, whether it's donating your time or your expertise whether it's fundraising for an organization. There are so many different ways to give. I mean, there's some people in this room that are only going to want to write a check. For those of you, let me tell you this. You look absolutely fantastic today. But it's going to take all of us, collectively, if we truly want to elevate the ways that we give and that we serve. For those who have always wanted to do something and you don't know what to do, just get started. None of us know the impact our own butterfly effect can have on the world or even our own home. And for those who are already giving of your time, your talent, or your treasure, thank you. But now let's start to be more intentional with the ways that we give and how we give and where. Don't give a toy when a book is so much more needed. Let's start to lift up the abilities of these communities that we desperately try to serve. Don't give a fish when teaching to fish can have a much greater impact. Create your own butterfly effect. Create purpose. Thank you so much for your time.